the outline with Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne with Kevin Dwayne.
Hey guys, I'm Kevin Dwayne, and this is the Outline Podcast, your weekly discussion of all things entertainment, gay culture, and a piece of encouragement for everyone. On today's show, I have a very special guest. They're all special guests, obviously, but we have the other half of the excellent podcast, The Healing Space, Mr. BHW himself, Brandon Harris Williams. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. We're going to cut up and have the best time ever.
I'm super excited. I figured it was time. I've had Raven on the show twice, and everyone's gotten to know him. And I'm like, there's a whole other half of the Healing Space that isn't getting any shine. And I was like, oh, wait, let me have Brandon on the show.
Chase you. They probably going to hear me and they'll be like, how the hell did the two of them do a podcast together? Like, what is this show giving?
It's called balance. It's balance. It's balance. And you got to tell your side because, me and Raven have talked about it on the show about you. It's like, well, he needs to come and express himself about himself. How about that?
Well, that definitely works. I'm here to do all of that and then some.
Awesome. And I actually told Raven when we were doing yoga, I said, I'm going to have Brandon on the show. He's like, oh, really? He's like, oh, I can't wait to hear that.
Yes, I told him. And he was like, well, yeah, I thought you would have told me before Kevin did. I was like, my bad. It's not my show.
We could right. It could have been a surprise. I mean, damn, like, you don't know.
We could ready to beat me up.
Well, people don't play about their loyalties, I guess.
They don't, like episode of Housewives or something. I don't know.
All right. Let me find you on a friendship contract. Lord Jesus. I cannot, but that's neither here nor there. I am excited to have you on the show, though, and get your perspective on some things. I think it'll be a really, really fun show. So let's get started. So let's jump into pop culture first. So a few of the ramblings that have happened over the last weekend, and I always like to wait until like Sunday or Monday to pull them because niggas act up all the time. So you have to wait till the last minute to make sure you got all the good shit. Because there's been...
You have to take a note like daily kind of, and it's like, okay, so what was the biggest stuff? Because
right,
they literally so the minute you start recording, they will do something.
Absolutely. You'll wake up in the morning and say, oh, gonna talk about that tonight. That's how that goes. So last week, and I believe this was midweek, right after I think I did the last show, Drake dropped the video out of nowhere for In My Feelings. Yeah. So at first jump, I was like, okay, so as people on the show know, I have a very hate-love relationship with Drake. Not love-hate, hate-love. Because when Drake first came out, I was a huge fan. Like, I loved Drake. But I think with any celebrity, when you get to know too much about them over time, you start to see the fuck shit that they do. You start to kind of be like, I don't know. Yeah. And so now Drake's on that end of that other end for me where I'm like, I noticed that he kind of hides behind being the sensitive guy, but he's actually a fuck nigga like the rest. So it's always an interesting divide, but I give him credit when credit is due. So I went into the video thinking like, okay, this is actually, it started off very, very solid. You've seen the video, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Awesome. So within the first minute, I was like, oh, this is everything. You have fucking Felicia Rashad and Lala. I was like, okay, I can turn the video off now. I don't have to watch the rest I don't have to even hear the song.
Listen,
because
because when I saw it was 8 minutes, I was like, who's watching that? It took me like a day or two to come to it. Like Twitter had already got excited and it kind of died down a little bit before I finally turned it on. I was like, 8 minutes? What are we doing?
She did seem a little long. And I'm like, the song only runs about 3:50. So where'd you get this extra time?
I really was trying to do the math in my head. I was like, we still doing Thriller type stuff. Okay.
Well, it's the thing. It's the thing. So I was like, okay. But then when I saw Felicia Rashad, I said, okay, there's a little theme happening here. But like, she's like, she's one of those people that if she's in it, I'm going to love it. It's kind of like Angela Bassett, Loretta Devine, Jennifer Lewis, and then Felicia Rashad's just like, okay, I'm back, bitches. Y'all can, do whatever you're doing. So it was like, I was like, okay, Drake, you get one win for that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then when the song started, so I think I was looking for certain things here. The second win was seeing Shiggy in the video. I was like, okay, second win. You're giving credit where it's due.
Mm-hmm.
Then third was like, okay, you have one half of the City Girls in the video because we know JT is in jail. But that's an actual fact, though.
It's just funny, but yes, it is.
She is in jail serving a sentence for fraud. And the other girl, which is sad because I don't know her name, we'll just call her Michelle because that seems to work. Is it Miami Princess? It's she has a name, but JT's the one that everyone talks about, which is so crazy to me.
I think because she's in jail. I see more free JT than anything else. But
yeah, but JT's actually JT. Think about this with City Girls because I do partake in the ratchetness, and JT has a certain type of swag about her that is really really everything. Like they're both like 2000 Trina.
Yeah,
like just that's how they are. So it's like It's great, and they're both dope. But JT just has a certain kind of swag that's just so fucking believable to me, and I'm like, yes, girl, I believe you. She said, "I will take your man and keep mine too." That is the best. What?
That's a mood. It's a mood.
That's a mood. Like, take someone's man and keep yours too. Like, hey, baby, don't mind him. I'm just adding him to the group. Don't mind. This bitch was talking shit. Like, what?
It's enough for me to go around. So let's go. What's up?
Listen. So they had that, and I also appreciated that they had the free JT shirts and memorabilia because it was a lot. She was very well represented in that video. Another thing I enjoyed, which maybe because I'm not from New Orleans, maybe it was an oversight for me because New Orleans people weren't completely happy. But I thought it was great that he showed a regular New Orleans scene versus going to the same kind of Katrina-laden places and certain people only show certain parts of New Orleans. And it's kind of like when people go to Africa and they think Africa is like this war-torn place when it's actually really, really beautiful. And I appreciated that he went to a neighborhood that was nice. And then like it was just a club scene. It was just a nice view of New Orleans. I thought that was awesome.
I can't even picture people being upset about that because why would that be in the video? I don't even that wouldn't fit. I can't.
Well, we're always going to find things to be unhappy about. Oh. And then, of course, twerking, because you can't have a bounce track without, like,
you can't
ratchet ass twerking. You just can't do it. Like, that's just stupid. And then finally, Big Freedia was in the video. And I was like, thank you. Thank you, somebody. And Drake's not the only one. I mean, Beyonce didn't have him in her video either. And other people who have used Big Freedia's likeness ignore him. And I think that's just so disrespectful to use someone and not actually have them visually there. Honestly. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I was ready to praise the video on this episode. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, I'm excited. Like, okay, Drake, you did very, very well. But then I got a good old tweet from you this morning. Like, hey, look at this. And it was a complex ad saying that Big Freedia had to contact Drake to be in the video.
Yeah. So basically, I guess he was down there filming. The way the article was written is like they were kind of already filming, and Big Freedia hit him up like, "Hey, y'all in my city? Like, what you doing?" Like,
right? What's good? He's like, "Oh, we doing this video. You should come through." What?
Right? Not literally. You should come through. Excuse me? Like, you sampled me. You weren't even gonna call me. Like, you came. I live here. That didn't cross your mind. Nobody's mind over there working on the video at all. So that was just crazy.
It's really a modern day story if you give a nigga a cookie. Like, I really wanted Drake to have this moment. Like, yes, Drake, you did the right thing. Now, it's not to take away. I am happy that he gave Shiggy his moment. Mm-hmm. Shiggy got a nice moment, probably a longer moment than needed.
He did.
Because it was like...
I was like, why is the scene still...
It's still on. The scene is still on. But shout out to Drake's dick print when he first woke up.
I think I missed that. I have to go back and watch.
Go back and look. Go back and look. I instantly noticed it, but you know what? I've had 32 years of training, so I understand. But Yeah, no, it was a nice print. As soon as he woke up off that couch and sat up, it just kind of I don't know if that was pleather or I don't know what kind of fabric that was, but it kind of it fixated itself around his piece, and I said, "Oh, okay, all right, okay, Drake, okay." All right, cool. So, yeah, so that's another high point for the video. But I did like that, he gave credit where it was due, especially after how big the Shiggy Challenge was. It was nice that he included him in the video. He had a moment to show his dancing and his comedy chops. And, that felt right. But the Freedia thing does bother me, though. Like, damn.
Exactly.
Like, can someone...
And I think I'm confused just because of given where Big Freedia was in the video. It's like, so what else was supposed to be right there? Because it works like it was planned out originally. You get what I'm saying? So I'm like, how are we going to do the video if she's in the club scene, that particular part, without her? I guess it just would have been him and Lala dancing for like 2 minutes. I don't know.
I guess, or have somebody else as a DJ or speaking up there. And I was just like, because even then, even though Big Freedia was in the video, it was very short. It was all of like... probably a total of 6 seconds if you put both clips in together. And she said, I use he and she because he said that you can use either or. I was like, okay, Big Freedia, go for it. And so, like she said in the article that once she was there, he wouldn't let her get off the mic. He's like, oh, stay up there. Just keep doing what you're doing. Okay, well, if I'm gonna do all this and not get a check, can I at least get a couple minutes in the video?
Something. I hope Freedia got something.
Yeah, and then the next step, how about a moment where you and I are standing next to each other and it's recorded? Seriously, because that's another thing I have an issue with too. Where it's like, yeah, okay, I don't represent you. Okay, now you're in the video a short period of time. But what if I was next to you and instead of this random ass nigga who was next to him throughout the video? Who was that dude? Do we know?
We don't. And I think that's the thing too. It's like, how much of this is a conscious keep my distance or not include you, or how much of it is really an oversight? Because I think it being an oversight might even be worse than being conscious of you like keeping your distance. Because I don't know.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like Drake has been around for a minute now. Mm-hmm. And he's had a lot of features and a lot of samples used, but he's also had a lot of people represented in those videos. So it's one of those things like, is it a coincidence that the one out gay person or LGBT person that you have in your music is the one you coincidentally oversee? That's a hard one to kind of go with. We've seen Rihanna countless times. We've seen everybody else you've been featured with countless times in your stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's crazy too, because it's like, this isn't even the first feature. So the Nice for What video, if you're just doing, all vanity shots of women or whatever, that's fine, I guess. Cool. Mm-hmm. But it's like this video, okay, it would not have made sense, especially for you to come to New Orleans and then you didn't even think to call Big Freedia originally. Just crazy to me. So.
Yeah, I could imagine someone just being in my backyard. Like, hey, I see y'all over there filming. What y'all doing?
Honestly.
Oh, yeah, come downstairs. We out here. What? In my garage? Oh, okay.
My childish ass, I would have told everybody the next day. I wouldn't even have talked to Complex. I would have been on, Instagram Live. So Drake was here last night. He wasn't going to call me to film. I had to call him. I don't know.
Yeah, but neither here nor there. Overall, I mean, I was really praising the video, and I still enjoy it. But seeing that article definitely made me say, okay, so we're not moving far forward as I thought. But it was a nice gesture on first watch, and I guess that's why ignorance is bliss. Because once you find out, you're like, God damn it.
Right. I didn't mean to piss in your Cheerios, but because I knew we were going to discuss that. So I was like, well, shit, let me let him know.
Oh, no. It's good shit. It's good shit. In fact, Drake got a longer segment because of that. So, hey, he thanks you. Because I was going to be like, great video, moving on.
Well, hey, now people are even more interested to go watch the 8 minutes again. So there you go.
Right. Go check it out. So moving on. So On what day was that? I think it was Saturday because I missed it on Friday. The premiere of Random Acts of Flyness by creator Terrance Nance premiered, but it came on at like midnight on Friday, and I was like, I just can't see myself doing that. So I ended up watching it Saturday afternoon. I saw the trailers like probably 2 weeks ago, and I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but it's Black and it looks kind of dope, so I'm definitely going to check it out when it comes on. But actually watching it was a different experience. You got a chance to check it out?
I did, and I I don't smoke, but the show made me feel like I was smoking. I was like, am I high right now? What is
agreed, or should I be?
Should I be? Would it be easier to digest? Would it make sense if I
That's
was?
exactly what I thought. I was like, should I have smoked before watching this? Because this is a lot. Like, it's a lot. And I was reading somewhere that it's supposed to act as a stream of consciousness.
Yes. I literally was going to say, yeah, it's like a fluid stream of consciousness. And it's like, hearing that description, it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense, but it was like one of those things like I've seen nothing in recent history like this, because it reminded me, I can't pinpoint what it was, but I've seen something back in like the early 90s, or even, like that was kind of like that, like those old Black exploitation kind of films, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where they kind of did stuff like that, where it's a bunch of images together and it's very abstract and it's not just straightforward. But even then, it was kind of like, this is wild as fuck. Like, I literally was just sitting there just staring at my TV like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, I don't.
It's like, what did Kevin tell me to tune into? Like, what
and
is
it was
it?
Well, because when I saw it, that's when I texted you and was like, watch this. We need to discuss. Especially if I was missing something. I was like, maybe I'm missing something because this is super crazy. Now, some things make sense. Like, number one, I totally get the idea of the police brutality, what it is to be a Black man in America, death rates. Like, I understood the basics of it. I loved the portion on bisexuality. I thought that was cool. And I see where they're going, but it's put together in such a jarring way that when those credits roll at the end, you're sitting there like, what do I do? Like, it was
Exactly.
It like strips you away in a way. But the most uncomfortable scene, and this may be a spoiler, I don't know if you guys are going to go watch it, but that whole death segment, that shit was wild to me.
The beginning with the children?
Yes. Everybody
it got
dies.
weirder and weirder as it went on. Because it started out, I was like, okay, this is like maybe some like normal corny sketch comedy thing. Okay, whatever. But it continued, and I was like, oh, and it's still going. Okay.
It was so wild because they're incorporating like real parts from history, but then also it was a lot. And I was like, okay, I'm glad I'm not high, because by this moment I would be paranoid and freaking the fuck out. Like, it was just wild. And it's only 30 minutes. That's the crazy thing. It's only 30 minutes.
I think after every segment, I was like, how much is left? I really feel like that, because each segment felt longer than it was, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe my jaw was just on the floor the whole time. I was like, what is really happening on my TV screen? But again, I think the subject matter itself is very straightforward. It just is presented in such an abstract way that I think you're more so thinking about the art part of it than even the subject matter.
Right. That's exactly what it is. And I was just like, now, kudos to, like, I'm always down for Black creatives doing something different. So I'm like, hey, go Terrance. I'm excited for that part. But I was sitting there like, man, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot. Like, my eyes were just sitting here like, whoa, like, shit. But, I will watch another episode just to see how it's going to contrast, or if it's going to be like just more of the same thing. Because I am curious if it's going to be the same segments and they're just going to advance them, especially the proclivities of
that
Black
I'm hoping
people.
At least, well, the sexual proclivities one of Black people, or whatever it's called. I think that one I at least hope will be like a weekly thing, but I'm sure sketches or whatever will probably change. I think too, also like halfway through it was like, should we focus more so on just affirming Blackness instead of what's wrong with white people or the race relations or whatever. And so I'm hoping if it leans more into that, I think that would be something new and different, especially like as abstract as it is, but just affirming Blackness in different ways.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. I hope so. But I am going to watch a couple more episodes. And then if it stays a little too creepy, I'm going to have to be like, you know what? I support it from afar. I may even click on it and walk away just to give you the traffic.
And that's real. That's real. Sometimes you just want to support, but you really cannot. You just
I get it. I get it. But it's like, okay, cool. But it was super wild. But if you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out. And if you have seen it, please tweet me using the Outline Podcast hashtag or tag the world of Kevin. Let me know your thoughts on it. But that shit was wild as hell to me. But
exactly.
Shout out to them. Another show on HBO. And speaking of HBO, Sunday is back to us having forums about fuck niggas, and I can't wait. The premiere of season 3, Insecure. Listen, the people go in for Insecure.
I feel like, now granted, straight niggas act up on the daily on Twitter, but it's something about Sunday nights and Mondays after Insecure.
Woo!
Everybody shows their ass, and I'll be here for all of it.
Right, me too. The whole taps, and I love just the acrobatics of explanations they have for fuck shit. You be like, how did you come up with that explanation? Like, it's so good. So it gets to begin again on Sunday at 10:30 p.m. I am so excited for the season. I know that a theme of the season is supposed to be battling toxic masculinity. So
exactly.
Niggas gonna be mad.
Now, I'm still Lawrence Hive, Team Lawrence, but...
Yes! Also, you're part of the Lawrence Hive. Did you sign the petition?
I did not, no.
You did? Oh, okay.
And it's so weird. Like, okay, so I'll explain this really quickly. Like, the fan in me is upset that he's not coming back because I want to see him. I feel like he was a big part of season 2. But the creative in me gets it because it's like, okay, they broke up. You know what I'm saying? If the story's not about him, it's not about him. Or even that's just something different creatively, too. Like, normally... the love interest, they'll break up and then they'll kind of eventually find their way back together. And so we follow them, do back and forth. That's not real life all the time. So I have no issue with it creatively. As a fan, I'm like, really?
Right. But then also with like other shows, though, he could very well come back later and just pop up. And then it'll be this whole thing. Lawrence is back. You know what I mean?
I don't want to leave, but I got you.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing. But I am so excited to see it because I mean it's a hilarious show. It's actually one of my favorite shows like of all time because it matches our age bracket. Like growing up, we always watched shows that were older than us, like Girlfriends and Martin. And they were older than us. We enjoyed them, we loved them, but these were adults, and we were just watching their world. This was the first show where I'm like, oh shit, this is my world.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it for that reason. I'm like, okay, this is everything, So excited for that. And then Ballers is coming on before that at 10 p.m. So it actually comes on. Ballers comes on at 10 p.m. Insecure comes at 10:30. Ballers, I actually binge watched 2 seasons in the last 2 weeks. I only watched season 1, which I enjoyed. But then season 2, I wasn't that interested. Like those first couple episodes, and I let it sit. And then I was hanging out with someone and they were going on about how Ballers was coming back. I said, oh, people care about that? Oh, okay. Like, I didn't know people were just really waiting for Ballers to come back. Like you.
Yeah, I've only seen the pilot. I never even finished season 1. I said I was trying to give it a chance, but I just haven't.
Well, here's the thing. Season 3 was a glow up. It really was. I watched season 3 and I was like, oh shit, season 3, they really just upped the production value. It had a more liveliness to it. It was more funny. And I was like, okay. So I caught up. So I was like, all right, we'll give season 4 a chance. And if it continues, I'm like, okay, I'll add you back to the group. But I'm like that though. If something doesn't hold my interest in the first couple episodes, I'll take a break and be like, I'm good, and just come back later and pick it up later when I'm in the mood. I did that with Transparent as well. I watched like the first 2 seasons of Transparent and then I took a break and I was like, okay. And I just recently came back and started watching it again. It's been like,
I'm the same way when I binge, no matter what it is. It's like I can binge something like heavy for a few weeks and it's like, okay, I need to step away. And not even because I like get over, like I'm like not interested anymore. It's just I need a break from that particular world that the show is doing. And so
that's real. The world is real. When you get into a binge watch, you literally become a part of it. That's how it was with me with Game of Thrones. I binge watched that for a month and a half. And I was like, I felt like I was just there. And like, that's all I could think about. It was wild as fuck because ain't no black people in that story. So, so I was just like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, so I'm excited for this Sunday. I can't wait to, I don't know. I might have to stay off a line because literally I get triggered right after the show because you realize that you're friends with so many people who have trash ass opinions on things. You be like, ooh, that's how you think? I had no idea.
Listen, this show literally
Insecure
brings
brings it out.
everybody, the worst of everybody's dating, like our own views. Like,
listen, you be like, oh, that's why you don't stay in relationships. Oh, I got it. Like the gender roles, that shit triggers the fuck out of me. When you hear how like men, especially gay men too, the way gay men review straight women is crazy to me. I'll be like, damn, you're misogynistic too? Oh, okay. How does that work? Like, gay men, like,
not excusing it, but
it's true, but it just blows my mind though, because it's like, oh shit, you want to oppress black women too? Got it. Okay, I didn't know. So yeah, that all begins again this Sunday. So I guess we're kind of looking forward to that. I am excited though. And yeah, so that's it. Oh no, there was one other thing. I was at the gym this morning, and the TV was on in the gym, and I always, I looked up because it was on the Kardashian channel, aka E. All they play is Kardashians all day, and then like there was a commercial, and I was like, I recognize these faces, and it was for a show with Evan Ross and his wife Ashlee Simpson, and we both know them separately. We know Evan Ross, the son of Diana Ross and the brother of Tracy Ellis Ross, and he was an ATL. That's pretty much his resume to me. And Ashlee Simpson, you're right. Ashlee Simpson, the sister of Jessica Simpson, and she had her pop moment in 2004, where she had that big moment where it was like, oh, she can sing kind of, or no, because there was a lip sync situation on SNL that happened too. I forgot about that. But anyway, they have a reality show coming out, and it's called Ashlee and Evan, and I guess it's about them doing music together. And I was kind of like, like my ears just kind of went up, and I was just like, oh, this is an interesting concept. And I kind of was like, well, who ordered it? Number one. But then two, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of curious too, because I've seen Ashlee on television before when she had her show, but I've never really seen Evan, like his actual personality and what he's like.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, I would be kind of interested in seeing what this is about. What were your thoughts on the trailer?
When I first saw the thumbnail for it, I was like, who the hell are these people? I did not recognize either one of them, but maybe because it was on my phone. So, that's, nothing against
it was small. It was a small thumbnail.
Exactly. So I clicked on it though, and I watched, and I was like, okay. I'm intrigued. I think because like you said, Ashlee's pop moment, I don't even remember. I remember her doing music, but I was thinking, I can't sing an Ashlee Simpson song off the top of my head at all. And so I think the two of them may be doing music together or just a reality show. It's interesting. I don't know who's necessarily interested in 2018, but I'm intrigued. And I think that normally when it's a family show or a husband and wife, couples or whatever, it normally is cute. They're normally cute, entertaining reality shows, just something small, sometimes background noise or whatever. So I'm intrigued. I might check it out.
Yeah, it definitely, because I ignore so much, when it comes to commercials. Yeah. And I'm just like, whatever. And I literally was like, huh. I'm like, okay. And also anything if you get me just a little closer to anyone related to Tracy Ellis Ross and Diana Ross, I'm like, so y'all gonna have a barbecue that they gonna come to?
I was thinking that there'll probably be family cameos from both, but it might really just be them trying to further carve out their own identities.
That's true, but I'm really trying to get a barbecue. I need one barbecue. I need it, because that's ultimately what I'm trying to get to.
I can see them. They seem down to earth enough to come to at least support every now and then. They're not going to be on every episode, but they'll be like, okay, we're going to do this one for you. It's fine. Like,
Yeah, I need it. I just need it. Because even when Tracy posts like pictures of her and her mom, I'm like, yes, come through. Like, it's just, they seem like a very tight-knit family, and I love that. So I'm kind of like, we'll see. So I'm going to give that I'll give a couple episodes a spin. That starts September 9th. But I was like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, but that was it when it came to what's been going on with pop culture and stuff like that. And we can move now into the main topic. So when I have guests on the show, I always consider the guests. I like to play to guest strengths. I like to talk about things that they are well versed in and things they understand. Otherwise, you would sound crazy as hell. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't.
You ask something and it's like, I've never experienced that. What are you?
All right, what's happening? What's happening? And you being a creative, I mean, you do like screenwriting and stuff like that, and you're a host on a podcast. And I was like, okay, this would be great. And you also work in Trump's America, so
I do.
Right. So I thought a great topic to have you on the show to discuss is maintaining one's voice in a society that prefers things to remain a certain way. So today I want to explore respectability politics in the workplace, code switching in everyday life, and finally, I want to delve into being a Black gay creative and the conundrum of making palatable content, but also wanting to forge one's own originality. And we'll start one by one. I know that sounds like a lot right now,
right?
But we will
It's
get
a
through
mouthful,
it. But you know, it's balanced. We had to talk about some ratchet shit first, and then we get to the more serious stuff, you know?
Exactly. And even the serious stuff, we can still show our ratchet sides, you know, saying respectability politics and whatnot, you know?
Right, and whatnot. So yeah, so we'll start off the top with respectability politics. So just so the listeners understand respectability politics, I decided to find a definition of it. And the best definition I thought was on Wikipedia, and it was pretty straightforward. It says respectability politics, or the politics of respectability, refers to attempts by marginalized groups to police their own members and show their social values as being continuous and compatible with mainstream values, rather than challenging the mainstream for what they see as its failure to accept difference. And I was like, yep, that's pretty much it. So yeah, we'll just use examples, and I'll start with you. I have a question. Can you highlight a time in your life that you willingly participated or were persuaded to join in on respectability politics?
Daily? No, I'm playing.
All right.
I mean, no, but seriously, I think it's like
It's
every
true.
time I go into work, I think every time, you know what I'm saying, going to, in college, being in like classes, I went to, you know, predominantly white school. So growing up in school, I think just daily, I think it is like taught so early in minorities, especially for Black folks. It's taught so early in our lives, like respectability politics and how to code switch, that we just do it without even thinking when we grow up. For some of us,
Right?
But I was even thinking about that too. I think that, like me, for example, I went to I was like all Black preschool, but then like from kindergarten on, I was like in a majority white school and a majority white college or whatever. So being around white people, because you're kind of trying to mimic the whiteness, is respectability politics normally. And you doing it so long, now it's second nature to me. I don't think about it. And so when you see other people either out at the grocery store, at certain people at work, whatever, and you're like, oh, you don't know how to code switch. Okay, got it. So you probably came from like an all Black, you never had to kind of a thing. So that's why you don't necessarily know. But even like growing up, hearing your parents use their quote unquote telephone voice, you're like, you talk like that? Like, who are you?
Were you trying to get that payment arrangement? Listen.
You know what I'm saying? It's like taught, some of us is taught our whole lives. So it is a privilege to be able to code switch and turn it on and off.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think there's also reason for it. Like, I think like, especially like our parents, like I know my mom, her biggest thing, because she was very into respectability politics, very much so. But that was just her generation. She was much older. And so it was all about me being successful. And it was also about keeping me safe.
Yes.
she also didn't want me to align myself in certain ways where people would assume anything of it. But that also went along with her not allowing me to have like longer hair. Like I had to keep a shortcut. I couldn't have earrings in my ears. I couldn't have a pager. I couldn't have, it was like this long list of things that I could not do.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it was just kind of like one of those things where, and I went along with it for the longest time. I also went to a predominantly white high school, but I think that also got me a different perspective, but it also kind of had me on the wrong side, if that makes sense. Because it wasn't until I got out of high school and got to college and was kind of like, I think I got read by somebody black and was like, actually, I have been fucking up. Because I think sometimes, it goes too far because you're being taught one thing as a black person. And with me, I was being taught one thing. And I was still exposed to other things too, but I started saying like, oh, well, these white people are very accepting of me like this. And then like, oh, I got this job because of me talking like this and doing these things. So you start thinking that's like the only way one should be. But this is before, I woke the fuck up and realized like, oh shit, it's literally just me aligning myself to white culture. That's literally what it came down to. And you're just like, oh, wow, I've lost my entire identity for the sake of success. Now, there's some people who are all like, that's a good thing. But we're like, where does the challenge come in for people to accept you for who you are? And not saying ghetto or hood, because that doesn't necessarily, that's not a black thing. You know what I mean? What it means is we have a culture of our own. And why can't that be a part of it? AKA natural hair.
Exactly. I think for me, slightly different from you is like, it was, especially politics were kind of whenever you leave the house, but inside the house, it was very much so like celebrate the culture and the whatever it is. Cause like my parents are from the projects and not to stereotype, but it's only so much changing you can do from how you grew up, if that makes any sense. So, but they knew how to code switch. And so they kind of taught me and my brother to do the same.
Right.
I think that, again, it's just a privilege of being able to know or be able to do both. I think that I never really had to deal with the challenge of like, somebody else calling me out on it. But I definitely have seen it because if it's ingrained in you so much, you kind of can become judgmental because you haven't been exposed or you haven't necessarily thought past it because it's just what you were taught. So, yeah.
And to clarify, same here. It was the same, man. We like in-house, it was fine.
Yeah.
In-house was fine. Like, I still had, like, I was the one who went to private school, not my siblings, not my cousins, not them. But then there was a period of time before I learned how to balance the two, which was like more like late high school, college, where I was too black for white people and not black enough for black people. And that was a frustrating time because it's like, what the fuck? Like,
that makes sense. Yeah,
it was a weird because you're trying to do both, and then like I got a little more well versed later, and I learned how to use them to my advantage. Like I remember a job I got when I was in college, and it was a predominantly white school, like it was a karate studio, and me and this other black girl were hired, but it was a lot of rich white folks, and I remember the girl, she was always getting into it with people. Now, part of it was her. Part of it was them looking at her as a black woman and already putting her in the angry black woman box. And I saw that. And there was that. But then it was also her not having the same experience I did dealing with white people. So she was on guard for everything. So people could literally say, hey, go do this. And she's like, what you mean go do this? I'm like, hey, girl, that's your job. Like, that's a part of the role. Like, they're not talking down to you. I promise you. And so me having the experience of two, I knew how to be like, okay, yeah, they were being racist there. Yeah, they're just having you to do your job there. Whereas I noticed that she couldn't do it. It was like, so I saw the advantages of being in both worlds, if that makes sense. But then, like, I think also working in that same environment and other environments, when I saw their hiring process, I got to see, like, the racism, though. Like, I remember when I was, like, an assistant manager, and they wanted me to help them, like, hire someone.
Mm-hmm.
and looking at the reasons they were throwing out resumes. And my mind was blown. I was like, oh, wow, because of the area they live in? Oh, shit. Oh, because of their name that they didn't actually choose themselves? Oh, wow. Like, it was just like seeing that and being like, fuck, like, this is crazy. You know, and but for the longest time, I thought those were right. And so what changed my mind about respectability politics, because like with me, at this point, I take care of self, and I get it. For the most part, I'm against respectability politics because I do believe tolerance needs to be taught. Exactly. But I also think people should have a level of couth, though. And that has nothing to do with race. That just has to, you know what I mean? That has nothing to do with race. That has nothing to do with wanting to be white. It's just have some couth about yourself.
Exactly. Because I think that sometimes, especially like at work, for example, it's certain things that are like respectability policies they want you to follow in line, but other things are just like, you're still at work. So no matter where you work, you shouldn't be doing certain things. So you should know that this is where you came to do your job, to collect a check, to pay your bills. So leave a lot of that extra at home. But of course, you can still be yourself. You can still be yourself to the fullest extent, but be yourself so that it aligns with you not being distracting, so you can still be productive. So that's where people don't know how to draw that line. They feel like asking them to pull it in, they get offended, or they think it's, a race thing or a culture thing. It's really not. It's just you don't know how to act. And so trying to help you to keep your job.
and it will very well be the same for anyone of any other race. It's not just black people, if you're just too loud all the time. There's loud white people, there's loud Mexican people, there's loud, there's everyone gets loud at a point. But there's a certain time where you have to just know how to use your inside voice and will it in and do certain things because it's professional. But when it comes to your image, I don't think so. Like with image, your natural hair should be accepted. Like it shouldn't be can you get that permed and tamed? Like, no, like this is how it grows out of my head.
No, go ahead.
And for so many years, decades, like centuries, hell, we've been told that we had to put chemicals in our hair to make it be seen as professional. And some companies still do this, which is sad. I know that the company I work for, they're all about natural hair, which I think is great. But, but I think that's where the respectability politics don't go. Like I have every time I go to a certain family event, there's this one person in my family. She loves to get on me about my hair and my beard. And listen, respect is earned, not just given. I don't care if you old lady. You're not about to come for me. I always got to be like, girl, like, can you mind your business?
But I think with older people, I at least get, though, a lot of it really, like we said before, is survival. So they're just not going to get it because they still feel like to be as blended as much as possible to make it an easier, safer life kind of a thing. And you won't even... So I can get that, but it's like I think they should try to understand that times are changing. Like we can't be the only ones being understanding, if that makes any sense. But back to like the hair thing, I didn't realize till a few years ago, seeing people online, so many women who have natural hair, talk about how they have like interview wigs, or how they would like to go get the job, but then they would wear those wigs for a few weeks until they finally were like comfortable off probation, whatever. Then they finally were able to like expose their natural hair kind of a thing. And it was something I had never thought about because I guess as a guy or normally with short hair or whatever, it never really crossed my mind. But I was like, wow, that's like really a thing.
It's a thing.
I take that back because I used to have an afro and then I would twist it up every now and then. And so I think there were a couple of times, I think depending on what I was doing, maybe an interview or something, I kind of would ask a couple of friends, like, was quote unquote more professional to have like my afro out or twist. And so normally they would decide twist just because, not twist, they would say an afro because you can kind of compact it or style it or do whatever a little bit more than twist or whatever. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And for the longest time, I would think like, that's what you're supposed to do because it's the professional thing to do. Yes. Before, once again, I got woke and realized like, oh shit, no, this goes against everything. And what made me actually go the other way, where I became anti-respectability politics, was I said someone read me. I think there was something going on. This was actually in the last decade, mind you. There was something going on online, and there was something where I was just like, I said something along the lines, and I regret this now. But I said this on the line of like, why are we doing this? This is why we're being talked about. Mm-hmm. Child, my thread lit up. And for good reason, reason. But I mean, I was ignorant to it. I was just like, why are we doing this? Like, don't we want to be seen better? And they were like, well, that sounds like respectability politics. First of all, who gives a fuck what white people think about us? And then with this whole thing, and it made me kind of think like, okay, and with me, I'm introspective. I wasn't going to get on my guard. I was like, okay, let me look this up. Started looking it up, and I was like, oh shit. I've been living wrong. Like, I gotta get my life right. But by them calling me out saying, okay, that's respectability politics, and why do you care so much about them accepting you? And I had to really sit there and say, oh shit, is that what it is? And I'm like, oh shit, it is kind of what it is, because you think like, oh, they have my paycheck, or they control my money, or they control this. But we're living in a time now where we actually have more control than we've ever had, where we can actually forge our own paths. We can actually do more and not be so concerned about it. And that really that call out really made me look at it from a different perspective. And now I am kind of like the person that's like, okay, I'm anti-respectability politics, where it's just like, yeah, I understand wanting to survive, but there comes a time where you kind of have to fight back and push tolerance, because nothing is done by staying silent, like at all.
Exactly. And I think too, I don't know why it reminded me. If you remember the episode of Living Single, where like Kyle is debating cutting his hair, doing whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so I think if it's like people who, like the other black guy who was there, I think it takes people who kind of can blend in a bit more, or can code switch a lot better, to kind of be the voice to help others who cannot necessarily, or help others whose appearance is different. Like, we have to all kind of work together. It can't just be the person who's different trying to make the change, because you can't really make the change from outside always. So
right.
Of course, in some jobs or some different paths, industries, whatever, you might have to code switch or play into the respective politics a little bit more. But it might be, at least when you get to a certain level, then you can try to change the culture or navigate certain things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I mean, like I said, times are getting a little bit better when it comes to workplace. Like I said, the company I work for, a Fortune 100 company, and they're all about equal rights and natural hair. And like, in fact, I remember hearing a manager, this lady was talking about she was always late because her hair. The manager was like, well, how about you just go natural and we cut that all out? I was like, yes. Honestly. She's like, you can get to work on time. Just go natural. And done.
Or get up earlier. It's like, I can't even. That's not what you really said. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. I laughed so hard. I said, oh, we are in a new time. But like, I love that that's being embraced. And I think it comes across to balance as well. Like, yes, there are times where you have to be professional. That doesn't mean mute your culture. If you want to wear that dashiki, wear that fucking dashiki. If you want to wear, like, it's like one of those things where there are times where you have to just show your culture and say, this is me. You don't get to mute this and say, you can't decide like what's professional and what's not professional. And that's like with the dreadlock thing, where they made it legal for people to judge you based on that. And it's like, well, that sucks, because this is actually a part of someone's whole ass culture. But progress, I guess, moving forward.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady. I guess it wins the race, but we'll see. And then we talked a little bit about code switching. And so for listeners who don't understand, which I don't know, like how you could even be a listener of this show and not know what code switching is, but then for the few white people that listen to this show, code switching is when you're of another culture, because other cultures do this all the time, is when you're able to connect with someone that looks like you. It's like with us with the look. We have the look, we have the nod, we have ways that we talk. And you're able to turn it on and off. When you're in a certain room, you can go straight up European, because that's all it is. Just straight lingo, like on Insecure, where she had that coworker or that intern at the law office who was super loud, and she was like, "Hey, girl, you're doing a lot."
Right? Like, this is
which is a great episode.
Honestly,
it was a perfect example.
Who doesn't know how to code switch?
Right? Like, hey, like you don't have to mute yourself completely, but find a nice little balance with it. But also, in fact, I just thought about this. I don't want to move too far. We talked about race, but we didn't talk about being gay. There's a lot of respectability politics with that too.
I was talking to somebody else about this a few months ago, and it's like cultural or race code switching is like literally taught to all minorities, I feel like, from an early age. It's just for a lot of us. I'm saying it's something, again, that comes second nature. But I think that gay code switching is something you have to teach yourself And it's something that you're a lot more cognizant of it when you're doing it. And then, that more so maybe than the race, I think that to me makes you more uncomfortable because you're really inside of your own head the whole time. Like, can they see this? Do they recognize this? Let me not do, you know what I'm saying? Like at work, the handshake has to be firm enough, but not too, I'm not overcompensating kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? They're talking about, you know what I'm saying, all their wives and their girlfriends. How do I add to this conversation?
Right.
A lot.
But then also, but then you also have like the other gay people who are damn near anti-gay themselves. Like, oh, butch it up, like act like a boy. And I always say the operative word there is act. And I'm like, I don't understand why y'all think this is okay. Where it's just like, oh, when we go here, just don't be girly, be this. And I'm just like, it definitely happens in the gay community as well. And it's just like, shit, this is a lot. And I'm like, do lesbians go through this? Like, do they try to soften up? Like the butch ones, do they try to soften up when they go places?
A butch lesbian can soften. I'm not even trying to be funny. I don't.
Right. Like, that's what I'm saying. But it's just like interesting because it happens all the time where it's like, oh, when we get in here, like, don't use too much lingo because Lord knows we have a lot of lingo. And it's just like, God, this is a lot. And hell, straight people use our lingo now. Have you watched Housewives? Like,
and they use it and don't even recognize where they get it from or who they. It's crazy. Yes,
it's crazy as hell. Like the men too. Like I've heard men say shade so many times. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Like it done got to y'all. Oh, okay, cool. And so, but yeah, it's interesting. And then like once again, code switching. Now me, I'm pretty much gay everywhere. I don't have a need to code switch when it comes to my gayness because who gives a fuck? But even at work, like everyone knows I'm gay. And so I've had that. I have my own kind of privilege with that because I've been out since I was 19. So I've not met anyone in like the last decade who doesn't know I'm gay. And I think that's a privilege. Because, you know, a lot of times when you're like, if you're closeted or if you're not, you're just kind of got out. You're still meeting people. You still know people who don't know your shit. Mm-hmm. But it's been so long for me. If you don't know my gay, you're literally blind. Like you've literally not experienced me. And I'm not saying I'm like over the top flamboyant like that, but I'm very vocal about being gay. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I'm gay. I like niggas. Like it's not even like I talk about it daily. And so it's kind of like, have you just ignored that? You know? And so that is a privilege, I think. I mean, I had to go through my own hurdles to get here. Of course, it didn't come easy. But at this point, at 32 years of age, everyone knows I'm gay. So I don't necessarily have to do the code switching. But I do know that in certain environments, I can kind of be like, okay. Like, for instance, I'm also privileged in my barbershop. People tell me these horror stories about barbershops, and I've been there where you're around a bunch of straight men, and, you know, it's a breeding place for fucking misogyny and sexism and homophobia, like all the time. And I remember those days. But I'm lucky enough to have a barber who's straight, but he's gay affirming. But he also works in a salon, like it's a salon barbershop. So he's around gay people all the time. But he's cool as fuck. Everybody that comes in is cool as fuck. And no one actually, I've never felt any tension being there. And that was a blessing for me because I remember being in barbershops growing up feeling kind of like I was acting. Like I have to fit in. I have to pretend to like what's on ESPN. I got to pretend to like pussy. And like, you're like, oh, this is a lot of work for an hour. Can I just get my hair cut and leave?
Listen, can I just not say anything? I think that's normally me because like at least with getting my hair cut, growing up, my dad cut me and my brother's hair. And so then I started going to barbershops later in life, like closer to college or whatever. And so at that point, though, I'm exploring my sexuality. So now it's like, so now I have to code switch. Had it been easier, probably like me growing up in barbershops, me already knowing. But now I have to feel like I have to act a certain way just to go get, like you said, spend this 30 minutes to an hour or whatever. Like, so I normally would be very silent, kind of just like, you know, what kind of haircut I want. And then y'all talk amongst each other. Thankfully, if I go, it's like a busy day. It's a bunch of other people. I don't have to really engage. You don't got to know my life or ask a bunch of invasive questions or I got to lie to you kind of a thing. Like, let's just cut and keep it moving.
Right.
It's crazy.
I remember growing up, I think I was code switching too well though when it came to being gay. But all you gotta do is have a mean mug and wear some baggy clothes. It wasn't that damn hard. Just don't talk look mean, wear baggy clothes. But I remember sitting in the chair and just hearing like the barber's like, oh, look at her. Don't she got a fat ass? Oh, I bet. I'm just like, oh my God, like you guys are trash.
Yeah, every time
like
connected to a salon, that's all they talk about. You see her?
Right. Like,
right.
Oh, you see that? Damn, I fucked the shit out of that. You like, oh my God, okay, yikes. And then like I remember one time I was sitting there and there was this Jamaican guy in there and he was just ranting about gay people and how like they get the machete and they would be cut up and sliced up and how that, and I was just sitting there like, oh my God, like I'm sitting across from someone who would want me dead. And I'll never forget those moments where I'm just like, fuck. And I was like growing up, like barbershops are like, it's just, I mean, and I always laugh. I tell people like, that's where men gossip. If y'all love to say that women gossip, no, men gossip too. Yes. The barbershop is where they gossip. I don't know what they call it, but it's gossip all day. All they do is talk shit about women and everything else. Like where y'all get this idea that men don't gossip is beyond me, because of bro code, y'all believe they don't gossip, but nah, these niggas gossip. I was just like,
listen,
Jesus.
They do. I didn't even know folks still believe that men don't gossip. I'm like, in the year 2018, they all gossiping. Hell, they don't just gossip in the barbershop no more. Now they gossip online.
Right. And I'm just like, these niggas talk. And I was just like, wow. But like I said, now I'm privileged enough to have a shop where I'm like, okay, I'm totally comfortable here. Like, this is cool. And I get to be me. In fact, I wrote this article for Georgia Voice 3 years ago. And it was about queer as folk. And then my barber was hyped because I was in it. I was in Georgia Voice. And so he put it on his mirror. So he had this gay ass article, my gay ass picture up there. Like, oh, no, yeah, I cut his hair. And I thought that was the dopest fucking thing. Like, I was like, that's so cool. And I was like, wow, we are moving forward. Because for the longest time, barbershops were just like going to a sports bar. It was just the same kind of scenario.
Exactly.
But neither here nor there. So that's the whole spill on respectability politics. Do you feel like respectability politics and code switching somehow hinder acceptance and tolerance from mainstream society?
I think it can if it's detrimental to who you are, kind of thing. If you feel like you have to hold back who you are. Because like we said, there's a time and a place for everything. So if you're like being uncouth or just being inappropriate, then that's not helping anything. But I think, again, if you're holding back something that could expose somebody to something different, because
that's real.
Yeah, because it has to be both sides. Like we have to show up and be ourselves, but other people have to be tolerant of that. And so they can't ever learn tolerance if they're never exposed to it.
Listen, and that is a motherfucking word. Like, right, that's the truth. And for so long, so many people mute themselves and become something else to the point that everyone thinks that people are one way. And that's a big issue in society. We have this idea that things can be one size fits all and that people should all fit in certain boxes. Like, that's just not true. Like, people are very well different. And part of being human is being able to see people who are different and also not lose your shit because they're different.
Honestly.
Just be like, I'm good, you're good. Like, it's no threat to who you are because someone else is different. And yeah. But speaking of maintaining oneself and one's voice, let's move on to creativity. So you write, which I understand. And you also are a co-host of a podcast, so you know what it's like to create content. One of the biggest things I think I've dealt with for the last decade of me creating things, whether it be, well, not so much photography, but when it comes to videos and podcasts and all the things I've done over time, sometimes our identities get in the way of creating what we want to create. And that's also, like I said earlier in the show, I'm excited about the Terrance Nances of the world and the Childish Gambinos who are creating content that's slightly different than what we're used to. Because they're allowing their voice to be seen, they're allowing their originality to be seen, and it's not in the scope of what's to be expected. So what I want to talk about is how you find that balance of creating things that can be accepted by the mainstream, but also still honor who you are as a person. So when you write, is it shows, movies?
Shows. I want to do television. Shows.
Okay, cool. So when you write television, when you're writing, how much would you say is just your voice, or how much of it is it? Do you consider mainstream society when you're writing?
Yes and no. It's weird. I think as I normally try to see, I guess, be true to whatever the story is as the characters speak to me, kind of follow them. And so other writers probably understand what I'm saying a bit more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think as I've gotten more comfortable in my sexuality, I have leaned more towards writing more gay stories or at least gay lead guys or whatever, because I've tried to do, you know what I'm saying, all straight things, or whatever. But then as I've gotten more comfortable with myself, it's like, okay, but where's the gay person or the queer person? Or why am I not represented in the show I'm creating myself? That doesn't make sense. So I don't necessarily get in the way. I just try to be more inclusive for myself with my own things. Because I won't necessarily like change the whole. Well, it depends on the project, actually. I was going to say I won't change the whole project to center around the gay person, but I will make sure at least that story is important enough or it's vocal enough.
Nice. So do you ever feel like, okay, when you're creating the gay characters, or do you feel like they're, well, because I wouldn't know, but do you feel like they're monolithic? Do you feel like they're well-rounded? Are they different from each other? Do they have any kind of like similarities to each other outside of just being gay?
I think a few of them have similarities only because it's different parts of myself. So it's like I recognize me in different things or whatever. But I definitely try to make them different from each other, and not saying that there's anything wrong with stereotypes, because I support leaning into stereotypes, but then humanizing that particular person.
Okay.
So I don't think that they're all the same, or even if they are the same, they wouldn't be something that we've seen thus far, because there hasn't really been Black gay representation a lot on television.
Right. We're trying, but yeah, it's a slow crawl, and that goes into what you're saying about the stereotypes and leaning into it, but making them human. One thing I think I've struggled with, especially with like being a blogger, and then even with like television until recently, is that you always see the same stereotypical gay characters. And it's frustrating, but it's also, what you said kind of made me look at it differently, just that quickly, when you said it's okay to lean into it, but make them human.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's a different spin on it, because all I see is the same stereotypical, okay, we're the oversexed, overflamboyant, shallow, materialistic, shady, catty. Like, it's always the same kind of things. And I mean, yes, we all can possess those things, but that's not the totality of all of us, you know? Exactly. And I think it gets frustrating. So when like I'm creating stuff, I try to move away. So like with blogging, there's so many people, and there's no shade to them, because I think, do you? It's just not for me. But the wig wearing, the gossip, like gossip threads, or where it's like straight up just celebrity teardowns, like that's literally all it is. Like, I just want to hop on here. I want to tear down a random celebrity. I want to throw shade, and that's it. In show. There's tons of those, and they get so much popularity. Exactly. There's been so many times where I'm like, if I wanted to be popular now, all I have to do is just get on, pick a celebrity, and go the fuck off on them. But I'm like, I can't do it without feeling like a part of my soul would like die, because I believe that what you put out, you get back.
Absolutely.
So it's hard for me. Like, even on this show, like, we talk about pop culture, and I'll list things I don't care for, but there's also a part of constructive criticism that's there, where it's like, okay, but here's a solution. It's not me just ragging just to rag. And I think that's why, hell, I probably haven't been as popular as other people, because it's like, no, you ain't talking enough shit. We want the shade, we want the cattiness, and we want all that messiness that we think gayness should have.
Exactly.
And so it's that weird divide of like, okay, how do I find balance in that? Because that's not me. I can't do that. But I mean, I do have an opinion, and it can be cutting. But I also want to offer a solution too. I don't want to just drag you and leave you there.
No, that makes sense completely. And I think it speaks to maybe where that particular person is within themselves. Because I feel like you can't get on and like do all these reads and, you know what I'm saying, throw all this major shade and all those things about celebrities and then not, and do it consistently or whatever, just for a check. I think at some level that is kind of who you are off when the camera's not rolling, or that's how you are in your own friendships and relationships. Like, I think an example I can think of, someone who's maybe changed a little bit, is Funky Dineva. I don't know if you're too familiar with him or whatever.
I am.
But I, you know what I'm saying, he's one of the ones, who wears the wigs and does things from time to time. But I think I've noticed maybe in the past year or two, there's a lot of videos where he just won't have anything on, or he just kind of is more, you know what I'm saying, coming as himself, but he also doesn't go as hard as he used to most of the time, I'm noticing. And I don't know if that's just a growth in him.
It is. I catch a couple of his videos. He explained that he lost some deals because of how he was, and that made him look at things differently. I think he had a big deal with VH1. And then he actually hopped on and talked about Sorority Girl, that sorority show that came out.
Yeah.
He had a deal with VH1 at the time. He talked so much shit about that show. Now, all the fraternities and sororities were mad at that show.
Yeah.
But he hopped on and talked about the show, and they cut the deal. They were like, oh, yeah, no. Like, how do you talk about us and you're getting a check from us?
Yeah, I heard about that. So, yeah, I think...
Yeah.
But I mean, but if that's something that has to happen for you to, again, I think it's an internal thing. So it sucks you have to lose an opportunity. But I think if it helps you to be a better person, then the better opportunities will come. But yeah. So again, it's just leaning into that stereotype of what people think it is and performing that. Because even going back to television, there's nothing wrong with the stereotypical things, because that's, you know what I'm saying, there are plenty of people who there is truth in stereotypes. But if you're always the sidekick, we never get to go home with you and really follow your life. So we don't know. And the same real. With these people, you know what I'm saying? If you're just blogging and being shady, we don't know the humanity of you outside of just, I'm tearing down the celebrities for like 15 minutes on YouTube or whatever, and then I'm going to go.
Right. It makes you seem heartless, if that makes sense. Absolutely. When you see people like that, you be like, damn, what kind of person is this? And who knows, you could be going through a lot of stuff. And I think that's why I like characters like Pray Tell on Pose. You know, you get the cattiness and all of that when he's hosting the ball, but you get to also see what's going on behind the scenes. And you're like, oh, shit. You have all of this going on. And you see the fullness. And that's so many gay people's story, you know, the neglect and the lost and the things that happen and what makes us who we are. So I absolutely agree with you. Like you taught me something else today on this show. So I appreciate that. Stereotypes are okay as long as you lean into them and make them human. Like that's real. Because I've been so anti, like, no, I don't, because with me, I'm like, I don't want to be a stereotype. I just want to be myself. And like, you've been around me in every day. And I like to think I'm the same on this show and in real life.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
You can call me out. I won't edit it out. Am I the same?
No, you're definitely the same. Absolutely.
And I think it's what I wanted. I wanted to just be authentic. I didn't want to be a character just to get popular. And so with me, I'm like, okay, this is me. I mean, I talk about politics. I talk about real shit. I talk about feminism. I talk about equal rights. I also talk about dick. I talk about ratchet music. Like, it's just like
the heart sees the heart. So you being true to yourself, though, honestly, like, you know what I'm saying, it's what people can relate to and they gravitate towards. If they have an issue with it, it's normally an issue that they're having. It's not anything. And that's no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, you're being genuine and sincere, then the right people will come and gravitate towards it.
And that's real. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to get to with this. So maintaining your voice. Like, so it sounds like you do that. Like you're pretty much you said you're creating versions of yourself in each character, which I think is kind of cool. And so when this stuff comes out, I can be like, okay, what part of Brandon is this?
I said in some of them, not in all.
Oh, whatever. Okay.
No, I think at least for now, because nothing's being produced, it's a lot easier, of course, to be as original as I want and be as creative, you know what I'm saying, as I want. But I think, again, with television going into it, you know, and it's constantly changing. But then when I have like, you know, network notes and studio notes, I don't know how much of that will be able to be kept, at least initially, of course, in the start of my career.
True. So, and that's a fear of mine. Like having someone pick up a show or this or the outline and be like, okay, change all of this. We love you. We do. Yes. But throw this wig on. Okay. And we need you to talk a little bit more about Kim Kardashian. Oh, okay. So what about the encouragement part? No, fuck that. No one needs encouragement, honey. Like, what? What's happening?
You always hear those stories, like stuff gets picked up and then you're like, they wanted to change this, that, and the third thing. It's like, but that's not what you picked up. That's not who I was, or that's not the project that you said you wanted. So why am I changing the major things of the project, or the things that feel major to me, at least?
Right. And that's absolutely a fear of mine. Kind of like with Fresh Off the Boat, when that happened, like he was completely unhappy with that show. And I was like, that's the craziest shit. Like they bought the show from you and literally just made their own. He's like, yeah, no, I don't like it. The guy who wrote, I guess, the book, he was not happy with ABC show at all. And was just like, what the hell? But it's one of those things where it's like, is that the part where they say you sell your soul? Because it's like, damn, like you're telling my story, but not my story.
Exactly, because you didn't want my story, clearly. Like, that's not
right.
Or it's like we hear all the time, too, when they're making a movie, but they want to change one of the leads to a white guy or woman or whatever. The love interest has to be different. It's like, that's not the script I wrote that you said you wanted. So why? I'm confused. Why are we changing down to the casting now? What happened?
But I think, but another good point with that though is I think that's why it's great that we live in a time now where you can create your own things. I mean, you have Netflix, which seems to allow more original content as of late, and then of course there's always the Vimeo, the indie route. You know, Vimeo, YouTube, and Patreon, and people are finding ways to fund their art as it is.
Yes.
And then when it comes out, it's cool. And I think because my thing is, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Insecure, but I do know that show is a glossier version of Issa Rae's YouTube show, The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl. It's very similar.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like she didn't lose a lot of her voice, and I'm sure they probably made things prettier. They definitely got like better looking, like, you know, cast and talent, because that's what Hollywood does. But it's still very much her. So I am curious on like, I feel like it's changing a little bit. Like if you present a package in a certain way,
yeah,
it can get picked up. I mean, like we're talking about moments of flyness. I'm sure there were some executives like, so, what is this?
Honestly, they all probably like, we're gonna give you just a few episodes and we're gonna hope this works. If not, like.
So it seems like we are getting to a place where people are letting people express the way they want to express, which is great. But until then, I think it's best to continue just doing things the way you want to doing them and find ways to fund them.
Yeah.
So you can keep the originality and keep it going, because there is an audience. It may not be the larger audience, but there is an audience for what you are shelling out. And I encourage you as I encourage myself, okay? Because I think about this stuff all the time.
No, definitely. I definitely feel like sometimes it would just be a lot easier, at least for having creative control, to do stuff on like the web or whatever. But I'm like, that is expensive. That's very taxing. Like, because you got to work your 9 to 5 and then still come and film, and then you have to like deal with actors and like crew or whatever that's also working a 9 to 5 and having to come film for free.
Yeah,
that's stressful. And
it's stressful. I think about even with like music. I mean, with music, a lot more people are going the indie route, kind of like the Chance the Rappers of the world, and like, or you got people who like Drake who end up getting distribution deals, but they still own all their publishing, which is great, because like that's the part that you want. Like with me, I would want the distribution of the show. I would want the access to the greater public. I don't need y'all changing my shit though, or owning parts of me. Honestly. Right. But I do want access to.
Right. I need you to fund this and then put it on, Wednesday nights at 9. But don't give me no input. Like, just cut the check and I'm going to give you the episode and that's it.
Right. Right. And I do love that is kind of changing in music as well and stuff like that. So that's cool. But I think that's good. That's good. Let's, where can people find you online?
You can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at Just Call Me Otis. That's it.
Awesome. And also on the Healing Space podcast. I'm sure Raven would be like, why didn't you tell them?
I was about to, but I was like, let me pause for a minute. So no.
I'm sorry.
I didn't forget. So yes, no, the Healing Space podcast is every Tuesday. And you can listen to me and Raven. So you can find us on Instagram, it's THS Podcast, Twitter, it's _THS Podcast. Or just go to thspodcast.com. We're on like every platform, everywhere. So like Stitcher, Overcast, YouTube, SoundCloud. What am I missing? Apple Podcasts and Google Play. So yeah.
Listen, y'all are all over. And also you guys had like a crazy week. Like it was like an episode every day. Like traffic's lit.
I think, yes, 4 or 5 last week. I can't remember the number.
It was. I know every day I was getting a little notification like, come through, daily episode. But they've been really great. They've been on like bipolar disorder, correct?
Yeah, last week the theme just kind of, that's why it was all the episodes. It was bipolar disorder. So we kind of had a general discussion the first episode, and then each one after that was an interview with someone dealing with the mental illness.
Yeah, it's been really, really good. And I hope more and more people listen to the show. It's really needed. It's really important. And I think that's also great to have you on the show because you guys have a podcast that is focused on mental illness. And it is a podcast hosted by queer men of color. But at the same time, you guys took a route that was like, okay, let's talk about mental wellness. It's not just, there's a balance of pop culture as well, too. But you guys mainly focus on mental wellness. I think that's very, very important, especially in a society that only wants messiness. So
now, granted, during the culture of pop, which is our pop culture segment, sometimes we can get a little messy, in Raven, which is fine, But I also too, it's called the healing space to show that there's more than one way to heal. So you can heal through messiness to an extent, laughing at our jokes in the beginning, and then we'll get serious as it goes on.
Absolutely. I was telling Raven, I can't wait to hear Healing Through Trade niggas. Raven is good for switching that name up. I said, how do you find healing in everything? I love it. I love it. He can find healing.
You have to get on that.
Well, yeah, it's Healing Through Trade niggas. I'll be waiting for that one.
I bet.
Can't wait. But thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a great conversation. I am super excited to have you on, and I'm sure you'll be on again. No one is ever a guest just once unless they're terrible. And so I would love to have you on again. So thank you. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you subscribe to on the Healing Space. I'll have that stuff in the show notes, but also make sure you're leaving your comments on SoundCloud, reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts. Just go to KevinDwayne.com for everything that you need. And I will talk to you all next week. Peace out.